Ellarige namaskara. Thank you, Madam Vani and Vasu sir. Thank you for this very warm welcome and very great. Always you speak very highly of me, and I'm really grateful to that. Thank you very much. And thanks to all of you who have joined. And I see a lot of familiar names. Thank you for having that faith in me and coming back over and over again. And I have my friend Mrs. Smita Trikan here. Good evening, Smita, and welcome to this program. I'm really honored to have you all with me. Yes, as Mrs. Vani was telling, today I'm back once again with all of you with a very intriguing, interesting topic, as Mrs. Vani said. So, before I begin, let me just ask you, yes, Ratha Kalpana, when you got this message, or when you are kind of connected with me today, what is it that you are expecting, or what do you think today's topic is about? As I always tell you, let's keep it interactive, and I always welcome your answers, your interactions in the chat box, or unmuting and speaking to me. So, in that context, what is Ratha Kalpana? What do you think we are going to discuss about? Yeah, I think more people are joining. Should we wait, Vasu sir, for a couple of minutes?
I think they are joining in. We can begin the process.
Okay.
People are joining.
Yes, please.
Yeah, people can type in the chat window, please.
Yeah, yes. Let me have your opinions, your answers in the chat box. What is it that we are expecting? Or do you think today's session is all about? Your answers in the chat box. Still waiting? What does that indicate? Okay, role of senses in our experience. All right. Okay. And our understanding. Okay. Practical uses for spiritual growth, says Janaki Ram. Something fantasy, Ratha Kalpana we develop. Okay, Kalpana is imagination, so kind of a fantasy could be, is what Anu says. All right. The body is a chariot and the self is a charioteer, says Vasu sir. Very nice. Another 5 seconds and then we'll continue. Yes. So once again, good evening to all of you. Thank you for your answers. Today's topic, Ratha Kalpana, as some of you said, is it a fantasy? Is it talking about the body-mind connect? What is it all about is what we're going to look at. So as you know, Ratha is chariot and Kalpana, of course, is imagination. So Ratha Kalpana is the imagination of the Ratha, the chariot, and what does it signify is what we are going to talk today. So actually talking about the word Ratha Kalpana, wherein Ratha is chariot and Kalpana means imagination or image, perception or an image. It's basically an analogy or a metaphor, wherein it is describing the relationship between few things. What are those? The senses, mind, intellect, and the self, as Vasu sir rightly said it. So this particular concept of Ratha Kalpana, basically, it appears in the Katopanishad or Katopanishad between Yama Dharmaraya and the young Nachiketa during the conversation about what is life after death. When young Nachiketa speaks or converses with Yama Dharmaraya and asks him profound questions about what is life after death. So that is when Yama Dharmaraya gives this concept of Ratha Kalpana. So is it only mythology? Is it Ratha Kalpana something limited to just fantasy? Today, we are going to look a little deep into this concept, which basically comes in the Katopanishad, And we are going to draw similarities between the Katopanishad Ratha Kalpana and the present day neuroscience. What does present day neurobiology, neuroscience talk about? Are they two distinct phenomena, or are they something similar? Is what we're going to talk about. Okay. If you look at the picture here, what you see is a chariot or a ratha. What are the basics of the chariot? You see the body or the chariot itself, the ratha, the horses, which actually take the ratha to different directions and places. And you have the chariot who controls these horses. And what is in the hands of the charioteer is the reins. Those reins pull or control the horses, directing them or giving them directions as to where to go, where not to go, what should be the speed, and when should they pause. So the reins are the control, which is in the hands of the charioteer. The chariot itself is a whole thing, and you have the passenger who's sitting there. So this is the basic structure of the ratha. But what has ratha got to do with the body, mind, and intellect and the sense organs is what we are going to talk about. So as I told you earlier, this concept of Ratha Kalpana given by Yamadharmaraya in the Katopanishad, it talks about the basic structure of the Ratha, and each of these, what I just told you, the chariot, the charioteer, the 5 horses, the reins, and the passenger or the owner, all signifies something very interesting, something which is related to our own being. And that is, here, the chariot in itself is compared to, these are the 5 concepts. The chariot in itself is compared to the human body. So, human body is compared, or using this analogy, to the chariot. What does a human body do? Human body is actually driven by the different senses. We perceive through the senses. Today, whatever we are doing, tasting, learning something, perceiving the world, we have developed connections between people around us. This is my mother. This is my son, my daughter, my husband. How did we perceive this? Through our sense organs, the 5 sense organs: sense of touch, sense of seeing, sense of smell, all these 5 sense organs. So our human body is basically designed, or we learn through these sense organs. That's exactly why science says sense organs are the gateways of knowledge. So if you are an engineer, you have acquired your learning by the use of the 5 sense organs. Today, whatever my height is, my weight is, it's because I have been eating food, feeling things around me, learning through these senses. So basically, the chariot or this human body is driven, or is pulled by these senses. And these 5 sense organs are compared to the 5 horses in the chariot. The human body is the chariot, the 5 horses are the sense organs. These 5 sense organs and the emotions, this is what reacts to what we hear, smell, touch. So all our emotions are equated to the 5 horses. The third concept, or the third aspect of chariot, the reins. What does it signify? In this metaphor or analogy, the reins signify the mind, or the manasu, our mind. Generally, how is our mind? Our mind is impulsive in nature, very easily distracted. Very easily, I connect to the negative thoughts. In fact, it is said that our human mind, generally, in an average day, about 60 to 80,000 thoughts cross our mind. 60 to 80,000 thoughts cross our mind. And of these 60 to 80,000 thoughts, about 80% are negative. 80% are negative. They're called as automatic negative thoughts, ANTS, ants. So our mind is designed in such a way that it's always distracted, programmed and conditioned to think negatively, I'm sure this is going to happen to me. I'm sure I'm the most unlucky one. So our mind is like that, very distractive in nature. And it responds to the sense objects. Whatever I see, whatever I smell, whatever I hear, I think people are talking about me. I respond quickly and I get distracted. That's how the mind is. The charioteer? Charioteer is our higher intellect or your chitta, the thinking brain. Our brain has the thinking brain and the feeling brain. So charioteer signifies the higher intellect, and the passenger or the owner for that matter, that is the higher self or your consciousness. So this is the analogy, the 5 aspects of the chariot and the comparison to the human body. Any questions or any doubts here before I proceed? Hope we are through with the Kalpana. The 5 aspects of the chariot, how the 5 aspects, the chariot, the charioteer, the 5 horses, the reins, and the passenger, how it is equated to the human body. Any doubts here? I could go about? Yeah, you could show me with a hands raised or a thumbs up or a yes, why in the chat box. If it's clear so far, let me hear a why. Okay, thank you, Chandragupta sir. Thank you, Anurao says yes. Okay, so we are through this. So these are the 5 concepts. So how is it related to the way we function? We are going to look at that in the next part of the presentation. So just to go over it, the Ratha Kalpana, traditionally, the image or this concept comes from the Katopanishad or the Katopanishad, where body is depicted as a chariot, and the human body, the materialistic body, is pulled by the 5 senses. What we see, what we hear, what we touch and smell, we react to that. Our mind or the reins, being impulsive in nature, easily it gets distracted. It is programmed to think negative unless the charioteer is controlling the reins, the higher intellect, the thinking brain. If our intellect is in complete control of the reins and thereby the horses, the chariot runs in the right direction. Otherwise, the horses drift in multiple directions, absolutely no control. It might pause, it might slip off, it might run havoc. Just like that, our life can also go helter-skelter if the higher intellect or the charioteer is not in control of the reins or the horses. Here, the passenger signifies the self or the center of our consciousness. So this, in a very simple term, is Ratha Kalpana. Now, coming to the very important question, who is driving your Ratha, your chariot? Is your chariot under your control, or rather, is my chariot, our chariot, in our control? Who is running it actually? Who's driving your chariot? The emotions, the negative thoughts, the things which are, many a times what happens? We start worrying about things which are not in my control. Right now, today doctor tells me that I am diabetic. I start worrying. I start overthinking. Oh my God, look at my life. This is the end of it. Or take up any of the relationship issues. Everybody else around me is happy. It's only me who's not happy. What happened? Who has got the control of your reins? What is your mind perceiving? What is your eye seeing? What is your ears hearing? We start making perceptions, the negative connotations, and then the chariot starts drifting or running aimlessly. And that is when the conflict starts. Just to give an example of what I'm telling, let me give you this example. Today, I've had my dinner, I'm full, and there is a big piece of cake or a pastry right before me. I'm full. But the pastry looks very appetizing for me. My sense organs, my eyes tell me, oh, it's so yum. I want to have it. My tongue reminds me that, yes, this is your favorite cake. You had it last time and you enjoyed it. So better you take it. So my sense organs are directing me to have this. Nothing wrong in taking a small piece of it. But then I have absolutely no control over my senses. My reins are not in control. I consume or I eat the entire big chunk of cake, knowing very well that it's not going to agree with my health. I'm already a diabetic and I'm eating, consuming. What's going to happen? I'm just giving you this example. This you can take it to any aspect of your life. Knowingly, when you know it's not okay for you, when you know that this negative thought is not going to take you anywhere, we get into that. Your inner conscious, your higher self is telling you, no, refrain from eating this big chunk of chocolate cake. Refrain from this very big negative thought. It's going to damage. But we are not paying heed or listening to our inner self, but we give room for our sense organs or senses to dominate our mind, and I eat the whole chunk or get consumed by the negative thought. What's going to happen? My chariot is going to go in the wrong direction, and there will be a conflict between my inner self and my entire life. And unfortunately, many of us land into such situations. So in that context, who is driving your chariot or who is driving our chariot was my question. Am I most of the time dominated by the senses? Yes, right now, today, I might have been diagnosed with a very serious illness. Or right now, relationships may not be working well in my life. My wife, my husband, my child may not be in good terms with me. This is the position. This is the reality today. So what is it that I'm doing? Is my sense organ or are my sense organ drifting me in a negative way? Or am I able to get control over that? This is something extremely important. You take it to your personal life. Let's take it to a teenager's life. It is so much relative. Let's talk about a youngster who is into drugs or who is into addiction. What is he or she doing? He's attracted to something negative, whether it is alcohol or tobacco or substance abuse. His sense organs dictate that he should be going after that. His mind knows that it is wrong, but which overpowers? Whether he controls the horses or is he controlled by the horses? That is going to decide whether he's going to become an addict or a well-adjusted individual. Similarly, in our life, with every relationship, in every health condition, the way we are, how we react and respond to these sense organs is where we are going to reach. Yes, today I'm diagnosed as diabetic, or I have a heart issue or a major relationship issue. This is the fact, and this is where my life, my chariot is right now. So how do I gain control over this? What is it that I can do? That is left to the intellect and the conscious to decide. The moment we give the entire power to the horses and no control over the reins, we surrender to these vices. So my question to you, dear participants, who is driving your chariot? I think it's not visible. Who's driving your chariot is my question. Your answers in the chat box. If you think you are driving it, hats off to you. Very good. If you feel, no, I need to have better control over it, you could tell me in the chat box. How aligned are your senses? These are questions I want you to think. Look into yourself, introspect. Even if you don't want to share the answers with me today, does not matter. How aligned are your senses, your mind, your intellect with my inner self? Where are we going and who gets to decide? Yes, let me just tell you about this case, or which I was just working on as a counselor just about a couple of weeks back. A senior gentleman who lives with, rather, who was living with two of his children. Wife is highly sensitive, and unfortunately, she has a couple of major health issues. And this gentleman was always irritated by this oversensitive wife who was very much concerned about her health. And by nature, this gentleman was short tempered. So every day there used to be so much of friction between the husband and wife. Unfortunately, the grown up boys, the married children who are with this couple, moved out of the house for the simple reason every day we see our parents quarreling, and my father is not changing his behavior at all, and we don't have peace at home. So I was talking to this gentleman. He knows very well that he's short tempered, and his ill temper has brought his home to this state right now. Now, my question: who was driving his chariot? Whether his senses were in his control? What is it his higher intellect want? He wants a peaceful home atmosphere, a home with both his sons and wives staying happily. That is what I want. That is what my higher intellect requires. But on the other hand, what am I doing? I'm reacting to every small little thing, getting into fights, not even realizing how I am relating to people around me, but completely controlled by the senses. No control over my thoughts, no control over my tongue, no control over my actions, which led the family to split up. Now, let's question to ourselves. Am I mastered or controlled by senses? Am I going in the right direction? What is it that I can do? As long as we get the control over the reins and then direct in the way we want, our life is going to go awkward, haywire. It could be the context of an illness, a failing relationship, or children moving away from you. It could be any of those contemporary, contextual problems, issues, what we face. All of us end up with these negative thoughts and emotions. Where are these emotions coming from? Whether it is fear, concern about your health, helplessness, sadness, anxiety, depression, any of these feelings or emotions, where is that coming? If I ask you this question, whenever we feel depressed or sad or angered, concerned about something or fear, what happens? We feel it in the entire body. What are the feelings or symptoms? How do you feel when you're concerned or worried or highly tensed? What are the changes in your body? Let me quickly get your answers in the chat box. Okay, before that, good answers here. Let me just spend a little time reading here. Okay. Yes, Vasudev sir says sometimes logic and sometimes emotion control us. All right. In normal circumstances, intellect is in control, but at other times, horses take over. Thank you, Janaki Ram sir, for being so honest. Yeah, many a times horses take over. However much I want to be in control, my senses take over. Yes, that is a balance. I'm coming to that. How do we have the balance? How we don't give the entire control to the horses is what we're going to control. Yes, Preeti says, need to control my horses. Absolutely. Need to control the 5 horses. Otherwise, my life can become aimless. And we need to add years to our life or quality to our life as long as we are alive, whether it is 60, 50, 70, whatever it may be, as long as we are alive, we need to be filling quality and life to those number of years. Unfortunately or unnecessarily worrying about those things which are not in my control is only losing my present or something which is good for me right now. So yes, I need to control my horses. Anurao says, I get to decide depending on the situation and feeling association with it. Okay, if you can decide using your intellect, nothing like that. Malati says, I consider myself to be in control, but that doesn't prevent me from sleeping every now and then. So I must endeavor to be in control. That conscience, yes, I'm sleeping. That itself, Malati madam, is something good. Okay, be aware, be mindful. Yes, this was right, and this is where I slipped. If you can differentiate between the two, that's amazing. I think that's a good control we should all work. Because minor slips are fine. All of us do it. That's why we are called human beings. All of us err, all of us make mistakes. But most of the time, where are we? Most of the time, are we consumed by these negative thoughts, or most of the time, are we consumed by these feelings on which we have no control? My illness, my other issues, my financial problems, my children, my husband, my wife. There are so many things on which we have no control, complete control. But if we are investing our time worrying about those things on which we have absolutely no control, that is where we need to sit up and start getting that control back. Okay, it is supposed to be me, but many a times dilemma between emotions and logic. Yes, thanks for all your answers. Yeah, so I was talking to you about, yes, so for this question, thanks for all your answers. Who is in charge of your emotions? Do you have any say in your emotional states, or you just get dragged by the emotional wave? You have given me your answers, and this is for you to think, not just now, even after the closure of this session. I want you to think, introspect, and then keep working on that. Now, I was asking you my other question. These emotions, how do they cause harm, or what are the changes in the body? All of us drift, all of us get consumed by these negative thoughts and sense-driven pleasures, etc. So whenever I'm feeling the negative emotions, how do I react, or what are the symptoms? Do I become breathless? Do I have a sweaty palm? Or my thinking gets clouded? So what are the reactions is my next question. I'm now coming to the emotions and the body. So far, we were discussing about how the chariot and the charioteer horses and the reins are compared to the 5 aspects in our human body. Now we are moving on to these emotions. Where do they originate from, and what kind of changes they bring in the body? Okay, I worry and get depressed. Vasudev sir says, I become irrational when I get irritated. Okay. How do you know that you're angry? Does your voice become loud? Your breathing becomes heavy? Or you start feeling hot all over? Or immediately you start crying? I'm talking about the physiological responses. How do you feel these emotions? Okay, heart beats faster, says Rupa, Preeti Rupani, all right. How about a knot in the stomach, butterflies in the stomach, something in my throat I'm not able to swallow, I'm not able to express my feelings. It could be that persistent headache or mind fog, what we say. Or I miss my sleep, I just can't. Or I incessantly keep crying, raise my voice even when people are close. Okay. I'm talking about your response to your feelings. My heartbeat goes faster, BP goes up, I leave the place. Okay. The emotions are causing these changes in your body, or are these changes causing these emotions? Please listen to my question. The fear, the thought of hating somebody, or the fear is causing your heartbeat to go up, or generally I'm feeling agitated, not in the stomach, or a headache most of the time, chronic feeling. And then I get these thoughts. It is like the question, the chicken first or the egg first? Quite difficult to answer, isn't it? Because many of us are living in that chronic stress, chronic negative thoughts, chronic ill feelings, that most of the time we are working at that level where I am generally stressed, fatigued, unable to make the right kind of decisions and thoughts. Most of the time, my one part of the head is actually, splitting, or my I feel aches and pains all over. We forget that many of these symptoms are because of the feelings. Initially, the feeling started and you had these sweaty palms or heartbeat, but over a period of time, we start living in that chronic stress and chronic tension, chronic negative thoughts, that these aspects or these pains and aches become a part of us, and we start living with it without even realizing that actually these started with the negative feelings. Many of the problems we are facing today are called as psychosomatic issues. Psycho is mind, soma means body. That psychosomatic illnesses or psychosomatic disorders means those disorders which originated in the mind as a negative thought, as a stress or as a tension, but it did not remain there because we constantly started living with those. Now it's become a part of us, and we feel these throughout our entire body. It could be back pain, it could be neck pain, it could be arthritis, it could be many of that which do not have a physiological reason, but it originated because of the mind or the negative thoughts. You are fine otherwise, textbook perfect, all your prescription, all your diagnosis, everything is right. You go to a doctor, doctor says everything is fine. But I am not feeling relieved. I'm not feeling happy. I always feel I'm bogged down with something. We call this as a psychosomatic issue. That is, the body is fine, but overpowering mind, completely not in my control, due to which we are inviting illnesses and problems. Dear participants, is this required? Now, what is it that can be controlled? This is where my thoughts, my feelings, everything is running directionless, aimless. Can I get back the reins in my hands? Can I control? Can I hold back my horses is something what we need to, because till today, in our real life, there is no perfect family, there is no perfect individual, there is nobody with a perfect health or a perfect intellect. All of us exist with some imperfections. Sometimes it's more in a person, sometimes some people are blessed with little lesser, but otherwise each of us have our own share of imperfections and issues. What is it that I can accept? What is it that I can control? What is it that I can redirect is something very, very important. Otherwise, very soon all of us get consumed by these negatives, and the psychosomatic illnesses can take or can overpower us. So in that context, what you and me have to learn and have to do is something what we're going to look at. Emotions, the body, mind connect, because emotions which just originated in your mind does not remain there. It comes as an illness in the body. It just started as a heartbeat, fast heartbeat, or a sweaty palm, but it didn't remain there. It graduated into a neck pain, knee pain, a cancer, diabetics, or etc., etc. Because today, what we talk, the lifestyle disorders or the non-communicable disorders, many of these are originating by our or through our kind of thoughts or the lifestyle. What we feed our stomach and what we feed our mind, all that is contributing to today's illnesses. Yes, everything is not in our control. But what is it that is in our control and what can we do about it? Yes, life is not fair to everybody. Some of us are no, with bigger share of worries, bigger share of illnesses and problems. But having come here, can I use my intellect to have a second opinion, take a doctor's advice, change my lifestyle, or realign my thoughts so that with the remaining life, or can I look at my old problem in a new way? Because the sooner we do this, we can add that life back to our life, and we can get the control over my chariot, and I can be the master of my horses. So, very importantly, the emotions, although it originates as a physical sensation, like a fast heartbeat, if you look at this in the kosha concept, the Annamaya kosha, we feel it in the outer body. It doesn't remain there. We have a fast breathing, hyperventilation and breathing. So in the pranamaya kosha also we experience the feelings. Does it remain there? No. It changes our mind, our thoughts, our emotion. So we start experiencing the feelings, the negative thoughts in our manomaya kosha, the inner layer too. And how we respond to a negative thought or a fear or danger reflects what my personality is. Talking about that old gentleman who was very short-tempered, would always snap at his wife. So that was his personality. So his Vijnanamaya kosha, the emotions we experience define our personality. What did his children say? My father is always picking up a fight with my mother, and always we see these conflicts at home. We don't want to live anymore in this house. His personality was defined. The Vijnanamaya kosha, his personality was defined by his emotions. And they completely contribute to our happiness, our wholeness, our connection. This is the subtle connect between the emotions. What we right now, I'm calling it as my anger, my sadness, my fear, my embarrassment. This emotion is not just in one kosha or one layer, but it is totally engulfing me, either in the negative way or the positive way. So what is it that I need to do is what we're going to look further. So here we move on to the neuroscience concept. It's not just about mythology. It's not just about the chariot and the analogy or the comparison or the kalpana. It's no more a fantasy or imagination. Neuroscience also backs this. What does it say? Neuroscience, taking these 4 steps, dare. What is DARE? Dare. Distinguish, attribute, redirect, establish. So each of us, whenever we have these negative thoughts, fear, sadness, concern about my health, concern about a failing business or a failing relationship, and when I have these majority of these negative thoughts, let me use my intellect. This is where your charioteer, your mind, your intellect should come to picture. Not just give the control to the horses. Get back the control. Your intellect or the charioteer should start functioning and start differentiating between what is a negative thought, what is intrusive, unwanted, what is desired. Yes, I have this issue. Yes, I have this problem with my children. Yes, I have this problem in my career. But what is it that I need to do? In your mind, just imagine, all of you bring to your mind 2 baskets. Okay, literally, I want you to visualize baskets. One is a nice basket in which you carry offerings or flowers to God. A nice, beautifully decorated, clean basket. And the other is a dustbin, a basket to catch or to collect waste. Now, literally, close your eyes, please. Close your eyes. Bring to your mind 2 of these. One, a clean basket to keep offerings, and the other one to collect filth and dirt. Now, what is distinguished? What is science telling us? Whenever we have these negative thoughts in our mind, I'm good for nothing. My life has been very unfair to me. Everybody else is so happy, so healthy, so rich. Is this negative, is this thought helping me or is it consuming me? Is my sense dictating or my intellect dictating? So distinguish between positive and negative, good and bad. If you think the thought that you have got right now is something positive, it's going to help you, it's going to take you in a better way or a direction, put that thought into that clean basket which you have taken to keep those offerings. If you think this is just an intrusive thought, a wasteful thought, which is just draining my energy, it's not going to help me in any way. It's neither going to cure me, it's neither going to give me anything good. You can't stop that thought, but you got that thought. Just imagine that you are putting it, trashing it into the dustbin, literally trashing it into the dustbin. Take 5 minutes, bring to your mind the concerns, the issues, the negative thoughts that you are getting or facing in your day-to-day life. Think for yourself, is it worth keeping? If it is worth keeping, where? It's to be kept in this basket, or is it to be kept in the trash? Think for yourself. Let me know in your chat box in a 24 hours day time or during my wakeful hours of 16 or 17 hours. Do I have more things which should actually be going to the trash bin? Which are the thoughts I generally get? You need to be honest. Even if you don't give me here, put this question to you. Generally, I have unwanted thoughts and I'm actually living with those morning till evening. If that is the answer, spend some time, distinguish, separate them, trash them, in fact. This is step number 1. Step number 2, I was talking about distinguish. We move on to a attribute. What is attribute? Whenever you get these negative thoughts, which is actually pulling you down, which is telling you something not good about yourself, understand that they are deceptive brain images. It's not going to help you in any way. These are just deceptive, negative thoughts. Do not follow them. Anything that is unhelpful, destructive, or a desire that is taking you away from your goal. What's your goal? My goal is to have a peaceful, happy life. My goal is to have a good home atmosphere. My goal is to get or have a big or construct a big house or have a good sum of money in my bank account. If that is whatever my goal is my thought taking me towards that goal, whether it is materialistic goal, spiritualistic, or whatever it could be. Today's thought, my life today, is it taking me to the goal I want to travel? If your answer is a no, then attribute that negative thought as a deceptive brain image. What is deceptive? Something which is not required, something which is distorted. There is a flaw in that. There is problem in that. This is something which is taking you away from your goal. So we do not require those. Attribute it to the negatives. We don't need them. Now we have distinguished, we have understood what is required, what is not required, and we have understood that these negatives are not going to actually help us and lead us towards our goal. So what is it that I should do? That is when we need to redirect our attention on something which is interesting, something which is positive. And in neuroscience, we call this as cognitive shifting. Very powerful. By mere redirecting our thoughts to something positive, something interesting, something useful, we break that cycle of negative thoughts, negative images, which are highly destructive, highly habitual. And this is so powerful, the positive thoughts and redirecting, that you can actually become that or change your life or your images. Many centuries back, this is about philosophy. It's called as a Pygmalion's effect. So many centuries back, there was a sculptor by name Pygmalion in Greece. So he was a sculptor. What would he do? He would carve beautiful images, beautiful idols. He was a sculptor and he loved what he was doing. One day, he carved or he sculpted a beautiful lady image, an idol of a lady. It was so beautiful that Pygmalion actually fell in love with this lady idol or the figure which he had created, his own creation. Every day, Pygmalion would sit before his own creation and he would attribute life to it. Oh, I see you smiling. I can hear your voice. I can feel your smile. I can see you walking actually. So he would day in and day out sit there and ascribe human qualities. And Greek mythology tells us that one fine day, the sculpture came to life with exactly the same qualities Pygmalion was attributing to. This in psychology is called as a Pygmalion's effect, Pygmaliona Prabhava. What does it say? Our human brain, our mind works in such a way that you keep giving directions, positive affirmations. Your brain actually starts believing that this is true. Vice versa also. You keep giving negative directions. You call a child, you're good for nothing, you're hopeless, you're an average, poor child, I'm sure you'll not come up in life. The child starts believing in the labels that's put on the child and actually proves that label right. Similarly, for the positives, you think that, yes, today I am bothered by this illness or this particular relationship issue, but I can overcome. Things can, then when you redirect your mind, thinking something positive, your brain, your mind starts looking for alternatives of making things work. We call this as Pygmalion's effect. People believe in the labels that is put on to them. Your mind believes in those labels and actually makes it or works it making it right. Now my question to you is, what is the command? What is the direction we are giving every day to our mind or to our own selves or to your own children? What is it that we are giving? Are we manifesting positives in our own self or in our family, or are we manifesting negatives? Whether it is positive or negative. Pygmalion phenomenon, Pygmalion's effect works in both ways. As a teacher, you can try this in school. As a manager in a company, or to your own self, check on this, try this. So redirecting, which we call as cognitive shifting, in fact, is so powerful, not just in the spiritual concept, but in the scientific concept also. It is not whether it is the spiritual side or the science side. In fact, it is said that spirituality begins where science ends. So both are two sides of the coin. We may say these things were told in the Vedas or the Upanishads or thing, but today science is reinstating or endorsing many of those. So redirect, cognitive shifting helps in breaking these deceptive brain images or messages, and it can actually establish the right kind of connections. So when you focus on something that is required by your body, by your mind, when you think of those positive things, when you focus and give your attention to something good, the way your life has to run, we call this as attention density. Instead of giving your attention to something negative, which is take away all your energy, if you can redirect and focus your attention for a long time into something in the direction you want. 10 things are not working in my life well, but there is one thing which is going well in my life. I'm sure each of us have something like that. 100 things are not okay in my life, but I'm sure there are a couple of things which is working in your life well. Maybe today my health is not good, but my earning is good. My earning may be bad, but my human relations may be good. I may have good set of friends who are there for me all the time. Or maybe my intellect, my mind is working. God knows, each one of us, if one door is closed, several other windows may open. So focus on that. Let there be an attention density, focus and attention and repetition of these positive thoughts. In fact, neuroscience tells us that it creates new neural pathways. Each one of us, as a baby, each one of us were born with 100 billion neurons. Neurons are the nerve cells. Not one, two, a few hundreds or millions, 100 billion neurons. Nೂರು ಶತಕೋಟಿ ಮೆದುಳಿನ ಕೋಶಗಳು, nerve cells. And each of these neurons, which were there at the time of birth itself, they need to get connected, which we call it as a neural connections or neural networking. The denser the connections, the better will be the child's cognition, understanding, etc. So as a parent, the more time the parents, the more quality time the parents spend with the child, reading, narrating stories, playing with the child, exposing the child to different experiences, all this make these connections, neural connections. And each time we repeat an activity, why were we made to repeat certain things when we were in preschool? Your preschool teacher made you repeat the rhyme several times because the neural connections become solidified. They become more dense and they may become more connected. So what does focus and attention do? It strengthens the neural pathways. As children, this is why we did those repetitions, shloka recitals, etc. because the neural pathways become stronger. Today, neuroplasticity or the neural science tells us that focus your attention on something that is constructive, something that is positive, something that is healthy, irrespective of what our age is, 60, 70. The brain can still bring or build new connections, new neural pathways. So you can actually break negative thoughts, you can actually break negative connections, and you can rewire, redirect, and strengthen the brain. Establish. So can we establish? Can we rewrite? It is generally said that what is plotted cannot be blotted. But when we actually bring or get the control over things into our hands and mindfully, consciously start living, we can, to a large extent, change the direction. If not, you get the strength to accept the way we are going and be happy, be in control of the things that's happening around us. If you think it is possible, let me quickly hear from you in the chat box. Yes, we can dare, we can practice DARE if you think so. Yes. Vasudev sir says yes. Malati Jankiram says yes, we can distinguish, attribute, redirect, and establish. Possible. Yes, Vasudev sir says emotions cause reactions in the body and then it gets into a loop. Absolutely. Each time we get into a stress cycle, that is negative hormones that are produced in the body, the neurotransmitters, the cortisol, adrenaline, all these stress hormones rush in our body. Whenever you have this reaction to a negative scenario, anger it could be, or sadness, or irrespective, or tension, worries, what is it that happens? A rush of stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline. But on the other hand, our body has very important neurotransmitters, the positive hormones, neurotransmitters, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphin. DOSE. In fact, these four neurotransmitters work or make wonders in our body. As Sir said, yes, the negative emotions get us into a loop and our entire body starts responding to it in a negative way. This could be reversed by helping our body produce more of positive hormones or positive neurotransmitters, the four, especially the four I was talking about, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphin. How do we get them? Let me quickly tell you how do we make ourselves rich with these positive or happy hormones. Number one, dopamine. Generally, dopamine is produced in our body whenever we accomplish a task, small or big. I wanted to do something and I did it. Today, I wanted to get up early. I've made up my mind to walk 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers. I am committed to it and I do it. Or I just made up in my mind that I'm going to clean my closet or my table or my room today. I set my goal onto it and I did it. So setting a goal, committing to something and actually doing it, small or big. It could be a huge task or a small day-to-day task. Setting my mind onto it and doing it. I wanted to finish reading this book and I did it. Anything, small or big, setting a task and then doing it. In our body, when you do this, dopamine or the happy hormone is produced in our body. That is one, D for dose, dopamine. O, I was talking about the acronym DOSE. So O, oxytocin. Oxytocin is another happy hormone or neurotransmitter that is produced in our body whenever there is happy, meaningful, healthy connect or contact or human contact. A well-expressed love or a hug, a well-meaning embrace or a handshake. I'm there for you. You meet your friend who is sick. You go to the hospital. You just sit beside her, hold her few minutes, and she feels, hey, I'm feeling so much better now. Why? Oxytocin. Oxytocin is that feel-good hormone where when you have happy, healthy human contact and touch, happy hormone, oxytocin is produced. What does it do? It literally heals. It takes away your pain. It makes you feel good. Oxytocin is that neurotransmitter which is produced in the body when the mother breastfeeds her baby or when she hugs her baby, when she caresses her baby. Mother feels so good. Baby is calmed. Why? Oxytocin, the neurotransmitter, was produced. These neurotransmitters can be produced, or oxytocin can be produced, as I told you, in meaningful touch, contacts, hug, etc., which is going to heal you, which is going to keep you happy. D-O we are done with. What is S? S for serotonin. Serotonin is that happy hormone, positive hormone or neurotransmitter, which is produced in the body when we do something for somebody without any expectation. Altruistic nature, helpful. I just brought a smile onto somebody's face. I may be feeling miserable inside, but I just helped somebody. Selflessly. It could be to your maid. It could be to a security guard. It could be to that random cab guy. Just before you got down, you spoke to him. Kya bhaiya, how are you today? Did you have your breakfast? And he said, yes, ma'am, thank you so much. You brought a smile to somebody's face. Random act of kindness, RAK, without expecting anything. That is when serotonin, the happy hormone, is produced. The last one, DOSE, dose, E for endorphin. Whenever we engage in physical activity, exercise, it could be any kind of physical exercise, walking, swimming, yoga, gardening, or anything. This neurotransmitter endorphin is produced in the body. It is a natural painkiller. Whenever we exercise and do strenuous work, body produces endorphin, which is a natural painkiller, which is produced to heal yourself because of the strenuous work that is done. Whereas when you do a regular exercise or when you incorporate exercise into your daily life, the natural painkiller endorphin is produced in the body. What does this endorphin do? It heals, it cures, it makes you feel good. Now, all these four neurotransmitters, DOSC, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphin. Doing something, achieving and accomplishing your task, spreading cheer, helping somebody, meaningful touch and contact, and some kind of goal-oriented exercises and work. This is the essence of life, to have the positive connection in the body. Neurotransmitters. When you feel you're consumed by negative thoughts, when you feel that my life is not in my control, I'm totally off my track, I'm engulfed by negative thoughts and depression and anger, that is when redirect, establish, attribute, distinguish, and then add a bit of dose to your life. Everyday dose. Every day being committed to a cause, bringing a smile to somebody else's life. That is how we can heal ourselves from within. Many a times we start looking at answers outside. But unfortunately, dear participants, the problem is within us. The answer also is in us. Because only when you gain control over the situation of your life can you do something. As long as we are giving the control to somebody else, to our senses or the external organs or external agency, we are only expecting for some miracles to happen. We are only expecting, or we are in the blaming game. Either blaming my destiny, blaming my fate, or comparing myself with somebody, something else. Remember, there can never be a perfect time, perfect day. We need to work. It's always, life is always work in progress. So we need to be working at that. Find out a purpose. Whatever you think can give you happiness. I believe there was this elephant. An emperor had this elephant. It was actually a war elephant. It had won many awards for this emperor. But with age, it became weak. It was old. So it was sent out. The retirement age. It was the retirement age. So emperor sent this. So now no longer the elephant is contributing. No longer it's a part of any important activity. One day, this retired elephant is drinking water in a slushy pond. And unfortunately, it goes to the middle of the pond and it is so slushy, so muddy, it gets trapped in that muddy water. It gets trapped and it is actually getting pulled into the water. With all its might, the elephant is trying to come out, but it's completely unable to. An elephant being such a powerful animal, it's with all its efforts and might, it's trying, but it's not able to. It's crying in pain. It wants to come out. People start gathering. Nobody is able to do anything. It's an elephant. It's not something which you can just pull out, bail out. Everybody starts, oh, how sad. Look at this. It lived such a magnanimous, magnificent life. Look at its plight now. Look at it. It's ending. That is when immediately the chief who is to lead the army, who is to lead this elephant, the chief, he comes there. He takes one look at this elephant, the pain, the cry, and its helplessness. Immediately the chieftain orders for the war bugle. He immediately says, get the war bugle, immediately. The bugle is brought and he tells people, start blowing the bugle. Ranakahale ant heltarala, the war bugle. So people start blowing this trumpet, the war trumpet. What happens? As this bugle is being blown, the trumpet is being blown, the elephant tries harder, harder, harder to come out and it frees itself from the muddy waters. It completely on its own, it comes out of the water. How did this happen? How was the elephant able to come or release itself from the slushy water? Your answers quickly in the chat box. What is it that freed the elephant? Everybody tried. They couldn't. But now the elephant is out of danger. How did the elephant free itself? Your answers in the chat box. Yeah, it associated the sound of the bugle with the call of the war that it used to be. So positive input, energy, positive energy. Okay, well said. Recollection of its strength, Preeti says. Wonderful. Recollection of its strength. Extra sound out of fear gave more mental strength to come out with energy. All right. Another 5 seconds for your answers. All of you are right. Yes, that energy, the call, recollection of its strength, all of it is right. It goaded itself to free itself with a tremendous effort to be on the battlefront again. Brilliant, to be on the battlefront again. So what is that? To be. That's the purpose. Yes, all of you said it beautifully. The elephant freed itself, not with any kind of external support or external efforts, but it came out of that plight. It freed itself with only its own internal ambition, want, goal-orientedness, and a sense of purpose. Yes, even at this stage and age, I need to be of something useful. I need to have a life of some purpose. So that calling, that inner strength freed the elephant out of the plight. So my dear participants, what is your inner calling? What is that purpose in your life? Should my purpose be limited to negativities? Looking at flaws in people around me, picking up those small little fights, or all the time thinking negative about the things that's not going so right about me? Or can I redirect, channelize my thoughts, my energy in a direction that I become purposeful? My life becomes purposeful. That I can do something to somebody. I can bring in that serotonin. I can do something small or big in somebody's life. If we can rework, re-engineer ourselves, trust me, the worst diseases can also show their back to you. Or you will learn how to fight or how to live with that. And who knows, the re-engineering, redesigning, redirecting can actually show you a new way, give you a new purpose. And not just healing yourself, probably you'll be healing many people around you. Today, we have many such warriors, survivors, who have actually been doing something phenomenal and big. And where did they get the lesson? From a negative page of their life. So let's not think that only when we have the choicest blessing we can contribute. It could be completely the negative or opposite of that also. So today, if we can think of what is it that is overpowering me or engulfing me, is my entire control in that, or can I get the control back in my own hands, channelize and direct the way I want? And this is what my inner self, actually I'm a peace-loving person, actually I'm a happy person. If that is what your conscious, which is telling you, the passenger, the neutral, the onlooker is what the passenger is telling you. Yourself, that is your inner self, is telling you. That is something which is going to give you the true happiness. So this is where we need to be, where my thoughts, my feelings, all my senses are in perfect alignment. It's being controlled not by the senses, but by my buddhi or my intellect. My mind is in my control. What I feel, what I eat, what I say, what I do, how I lead my life is being controlled by me. Yes, occasional drifts are there, but more or less, I am directing my life. And this is in complete alignment with my inner self. This is the way I want to live, and I'm doing it. If we can have that perfect alignment in our life, that is how we can create that synchrony between body, mind, and intellect. This is Ratha Kalpana for you. I close it